is all about hand-eye coordination. And I thought, if you take away the eye part of it, how can you play tennis? Being here is not just about playing tennis, it's also so much more.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Hassan Khan back again with you. And whenever you're listening to this and wherever you're listening to this, I genuinely hope you are all doing well. And before I actually introduce my next guest and my next special interview, I have to thank you for your feedback, and always remember to subscribe, like our videos, and do please let us know what aspects of it you're enjoying and what you're not, because Solwyn and I are putting hard work into it, and I'm hoping that more of you will come forward. This is a perfect opportunity to expose our sport, to talk about it, to endorse it, and to ensure that once we're out of this lockdown, there is new blood across the country taking up our activities. As per usual, I want to thank Martin Timcox and his support as CEO of Metro. I want to thank all of you. And you know what? This interview isn't about cricket. No, it isn't about bowls. It isn't about football. I'm bringing you something really quite new. It's the fastest growing sport in the UK. And that is right, I'm talking about blind tennis. How does it work? Well, you'll find attached videos to this video. Odette Battarel, who I'm about to go to, will also introduce blind tennis to you, and don't forget that thumbs up. Right, let's go over to Odette Battarel, who funnily enough was my boss for many years at Thomas Pocklington Trust and London Vision and South East London. Odette, I know you're a busy lady, so I really do appreciate your time. Many thanks. And how are you?
Hello, hi. I'm fine, thank you.
So one of my first questions to everyone has been, how have you been coping with the lockdown? What have been your coping mechanisms? And what have you been doing to occupy your time?
I think one of the best thing is to be able to sort of stay in contact with friends and family through Facebook and emails, Skyping. That's been really good. It would have been really hard if we didn't have the technology. One of the kind of strategies is to make sure that you still do a bit of exercise, you eat well, you sleep well, and when you get kind of a bit overwhelmed by all this kind of news about the virus and how many people die, just switch the TV off.
Tell us about the online exercises classes that you've been putting out there.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about all my friends, opponents that play tennis, and thinking about exercises. And I was thinking that a regular video exercise, although it's good, if you can't see the screen, it's obviously not really properly described. So I was thinking, so what can I do? So I was thinking, okay, I can do exercises and describe them. I suppose when you play tennis, you want to keep your arms strong. So you can do your serves, your forehands, your backhands. You need a lot of sort of strength in your arms. So I thought, okay, well, the best way to do it is actually to use weights. And then I was thinking, okay, not everybody has weights at home. I don't have weights at home. So I kind of looked in the kitchen and I found 2 tins of baked beans. So I thought, great, a tin in each hand. It's easy to hold. It's not too heavy. It still gives you some weight to work out. So far, I've done 6 workouts. And I've sent them to everybody, to Metro Blind Sport, to British Blind Sport, to VI Tennis, to VI Talk. So, and that's been kind of quite entertaining for myself.
Before we talk about Metro Blind Sport, the tennis, and what you've done in the employment world, take me back to your early life, if you don't mind, where you were born, how you lost your sight.
I was born in the USA, in Boston. My mum's American and my dad's French, but we moved to France when I was little, so I don't remember ever living in the USA. And I lived in France and south of France, but I was sighted as a child. So I came to London as an au pair and I was babysitting, looking after children. Then I became a dance teacher, running a dance company. and teaching dance for Westminster Adult Education. I was teaching ballet, keep fit to music, and rock and roll. So I've got Stargardt's disease, so I've lost the center of my vision. And it's when I started to realize that I couldn't see the children that were in my dance class, and people were asking me, do I put my foot like this or like that? And I just couldn't see it. And I realized that I'm going to have to change. I'm going to have to change what I do. I wasn't able to continue to be a dance teacher, if you want, at the standard I wanted to, I expected myself to do. And somebody said, well, why don't you go to a blind school? So I was given two brochures. I was given Red Hill and Dorton College. And Dorton College really attracted me because they had computer studies. And I thought, yeah, let's try it out. So by then, I had just used really a computer with MS-DOS. So it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think in Dorton College, what happened is that I learned to learn how to learn as a visually impaired person and how to use a computer. And that was really, I suppose, the first step towards then, employment and going forwards. I think no other college actually offer that if you become visually impaired, say in your 30s, or in your 40s, or in your 50s, that there's a course, put you back on track, teach you how to use all the magnification, the JAWS, the supernova, the zoom, whatever you need. And as I say, once you know how to learn as a visually impaired person, you know how to work. Well, I suppose that it kind of kick-started, if you want, my second life, my second career life.
Yeah.
Because then I became an administrator for the CQC inspectors. I worked in the Wimbledon office. Then I decided I could do a bit better than that, I suppose, in some ways. So I went to Croydon College and I said, well, I'm visually impaired. I'd like to do your management course. I'd like to become a manager, earn more money. And they said, well, we've never had a visually impaired person on our course. But because I had been to Dorton College, I knew what I needed. I could immediately say, well, what I need is, at that time, a tape recorder, CCTV magnifier, and supernova on the computer, and I'll be fine. And I was, I did very well. I had a really, I passed with distinction. And then I got a management job. I say then, I did have to apply over 200 posts to get it,
Wow.
So I did have to work hard to get the job, but I had the qualifications. And then that's how I started to work for the Thomas Pocklington's Trust. And my first job as a manager was managing the resource centre in Balham.
Your career at Pocklington Trust, you excelled, and I know that's where I met you. So how did you, I guess, move through the ranks, and what difference did it make to your life? And I guess, what did you achieve?
Well, I suppose so. Being a manager, being a visually impaired manager, okay, it was a service for that supported people who were blind and visually impaired. And my first fear that, well, I wouldn't be able to maybe help them like a sighted person. I mean, there was a company car. I couldn't use it. I thought, oh, am I expected to drive people round? I wouldn't be able to read, I was sort of thinking, oh, would I be able to read a letter if somebody asked me? Would I be able to help people and give them the support they need as a visually impaired person? I really wasn't sure. And for the Pocklington Trust, I was their first visually impaired manager. After a couple of years, I asked the members, I said, well, what do you think about having a visually impaired manager rather than a sighted manager? And I think people said that what they liked about it is that they felt understood, they felt supported. Working through the Pocklington Trust, it really gave me the opportunity to explore different roles and different jobs. And then I became CEO of Southeast London Vision, an organization that was supported by the Thomas Pocklington Trust, and to be like a vision impaired CEO was an amazing situation. I'm sure if I had looked in the job, in a job advert, CEO of Southeast London Vision, I would have never gone for it. And I say, oh no, I can't do that.
It's worth telling this story. I was working with a rehab officer in Wandsworth, and she said to me, I think you're very good at Braille. You should look at teaching Braille. Now, Braille was a somewhat dying trade, so to speak, but she said, there's a manager at the Balham Resource Centre. She would like you to come in and teach Braille. And I said, oh, I'll do it. And she says, how much will you charge? I said, nothing. Of course, I'll do it for free. She said, no, she wants to actually pay you. And so before I'd actually met you, I started liking you because I thought, well, that's respect. She's paying me respect without having met me. That's respecting my disability. That's respecting me as a human being. And when I'd met you...
Hassan,
yeah.
what maybe you don't know is that I had to argue very strongly for the funders to actually give me the money for you because they wanted a qualified teacher. And I had been to the RNIB, I had been to other organizations asking for a Braille teacher, and they only had a few volunteers and they didn't have any teachers. So I had to argue, say, well, there's no qualified teachers I can find. So let's give this person a chance. And he's been recommended by the rehabilitation officer. Yeah, what I wanted to add, Hassan, is that also having tennis was really the first visually impaired sport I ever done, because so I was managing the resource center, and I had just previously I had been an administrator in a mainstream office, so I wasn't really mixing with any visually impaired and blind people then. And it's only when I became manager of the resource center that, and then I sort of met more visually impaired people, obviously because they were the members of the resource center, but also when I started to get involved with blind tennis. I think that apart from the sport, going to the pub afterwards and talking to other visually impaired, sporty people that were active. Some people were unemployed, but other people were doing all kinds of different jobs. And that gave me a huge boost. And I learned a lot because I was sort of saying, okay, I've got support through access to work. I've got equipment in my office. And then one of the players said, well, I get help for somebody to read stuff for me. I said, what? Access to Work never told me I could actually apply for a person to help me. And so through learning that in the pub after tennis, I actually applied for a few extra hours of a reader.
Okay, so you've now moved on to tennis. Presumably you've gone along to try the game, seeing how you fit in. How did you become one of the main instigators in taking tennis UK-wide?
I don't know if you'd say it's a bit by chance or fate or whatever. So, as I said, I was managing this resource center, and I got this email out of the blue saying, Japanese are coming to the Seymour Sports Centre at Baker Street for a demonstration of blind tennis. You're cordially invited to come and try it out and see how it is. Well, I thought, wait a moment, how can blind people play tennis? I thought, this is not serious. I thought, this is just going to be a bit of, a kind of an activity to keep blind people out of trouble.
Yeah, that's what I thought about cricket.
It's not going to be a sport, So then I thought, well, who am I to say, let's just go. It's part of my job to know information and pass on information. It's part of what I do. So I thought, okay, let's go and have a look. And I'm so glad I did, Hassan. I'm so glad I did. So when I came to the sports center, the Japanese were there, and they were basically doing a world tour to promote the game, because they were absolutely passionate about it becoming Paralympic. So to make the game Paralympic, it's got to be played by lots of countries. So that kind of spurred and sort of was their motivation. But when I arrived there, I saw that totally blind guys playing tennis, serving, doing backhands, forehands, lunging for the ball, and really, working up a sweat and really moving on the court. I was so amazed. I thought, yeah, okay, that's a sport. I must say, Hassan, I had never played tennis before. So it's not like I had played tennis as a sighted person and sort of transferred my skills. And then a few weeks later, I got an email from Metro Blind Sport to say we're starting some tennis sessions on a Friday, come and join us. And that's the first time I heard about Metro Blind Sport. Nobody before that, not the rehab officer, not Dorton College, not the ONIB, nobody told me about Metro Blind Sport. That was so 2006, 2007, around there. I went along. And I met Roy Smith, whom I believe you interviewed previously.
You'll be following him.
So he was then the director of Metro Blind Sport. And there were a few people there who had done tennis when they were sighted, when they were young. So they had a bit of a clue of what to do. But we had no coach. It was all amongst ourselves. And a chap called Rob Kershaw from South Africa. So he was kind of in charge of the blind tennis for Metro, sort of volunteering for Metro. And then, of course, at that time, we were the first ones to play blind tennis. So that was intriguing. That was kind of, walking down the street with your white cane and a tennis racket on your back. You felt kind of, look at me, I bet you're wondering what all this is about. So it was quite intriguing and quite fun, and it was challenging because the Tennis Foundation then, they were not sure about blind tennis because it wasn't really there in England, and they thought it was maybe a bit more like badminton, because we were playing on the small badminton court. So they were not sure, is it badminton, is it tennis? I was really lucky because the Thomas Pocklington Trust let me spend a few hours a week developing tennis. So it was kind of also part of my job, which was brilliant because it meant I could spend a bit of time. I could, use the telephone, the resource, daytime. I could kind of do a few bits and bobs that maybe I wouldn't have been able to do if I hadn't kind of included it in my job. And then what happened, now I can't remember who, but I definitely remember there were a few totally blind friends, clients who said, well, we want to play blind tennis. We were hearing about this excitement and we'd like to play. And I was saying, well, look, you come on court and say to me, I want to play tennis, blind tennis. And I've seen the blind Japanese play, but really, I wouldn't really know how to start it off, so what drills do you do? How do you start a blind person who's never played tennis before, doesn't know anything about tennis, and who wants to start playing? What do you do? I was talking to Roy, I was talking to Rob Kershaw and others, and they had done blind football, blind cricket, so they had a bit of a clue about ball skills. I said, look, the Japanese have done it for 30 years. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's go to Japan. And so I fundraised. We went to Japan. We went to learn how to coach the totally blind players. And we brought the knowledge back to England. And that was an amazing experience. So I was traveling there with 3 visually impaired people. And we were all learning and supporting each other. We all had different sights. So what one could see, the other one couldn't. And between ourselves, we might have had 20/20 vision, I don't know. But it was a great learning experience to travel as a visually impaired person.
Did you add any of your own ideas when you brought the game back to the UK?
Well, yes, because in a sense, the Japanese mindset is not the same as the English mindset. For example, just one example, they would all sit down on a bench and you would have 2 players on court with a couple of volunteers, and they would play for 3 minutes with a timer. And when the bell went, they would go on the bench and the next people would come up. And everybody was very quiet, politely, and very quiet so you could hear the ball. No way would we sit quietly on a bench waiting for our turn.
Can you imagine
not an
Roy
adventure.
staying quiet?
It wouldn't happen.
So how does blind tennis work then?
Blind tennis, you have a spongy ball. Like the wheelchair tennis, we're allowed several bounces. If you're totally blind, you're allowed 3 bounces. When you serve, you have to stay behind the service box line. If you step over, it's a foul. The B1s, so the totally blind, wear shades and they play in a mini red court. So it's a smaller court than the sighted tennis. The B2, 3, and 4, and 5, they play in an orange court. So again, it is a junior court. It's about more or less a meter shorter than the regular court. But the B2s, they're allowed 3 bounces. The B3s are only allowed 2. B4 and B5 are allowed only 1 bounce, like the regular tennis. So in a tournament, for example, I would only play against a B3 lady. When we do mixed doubles, at the moment, everybody mixes up because we don't really have enough players to have the category. And the international tournaments, they only have singles at the moment. And again, you would only play against somebody of your category.
How many people are actively playing tennis, well, before this lockdown in the UK then?
Oh yes. Now I think we were nearing, I think we were between 700 and 800,
Wow.
which is, you know, amazing for blind sport, really, a disability sport and a new sport as well. I would always take 2 rackets and a few balls when I go on holiday with me. I'm the only vision impaired person in my family. So at least with my jingly balls, I can play with my dad, with my brother, my niece, my husband. Well, we play, we just make the tennis court a bit shorter to be like the orange court. And that's it. I play. So at least I can engage in an activity where I don't feel I'm going to lose all the time because I can't see, you know. I have a bit of a chance to win a few points. I think the other thing is that it makes them understand me a bit better. So I've been to Croatia, I've been to France, to Switzerland, and everywhere I go, I try and find a tennis court and I play and take a few photos for my Facebook. Parents that can play a sport with their kids, or kids are visually impaired, or parents are visually impaired, you know, suddenly you can do something with your family.
Fascinating stuff so far. Thank you for that. Now, Odette, look, over the last month or so, I've really learnt what a trailblazer Metro Blind Sport as a charity is. Because, look, we took athletics to the next level, i.e., Winter Olympics, Paralympians. We then took cricket to South Africa, which then ensured that they won the World Cup in '98. You know, we've taken bowls to the next level. We've brought tennis over from Japan, put it out UK wide, and now please do tell me how we've taken the game of tennis to other countries, i.e. Germany and Ireland.
So I think it all started again with an email. So that's the power of social media. We got an email asking us to come to Germany to introduce blind tennis. I think it was something like there was a International Women's Sports Day or some kind of event, some kind of occasion. So they wanted women and they wanted disabled women to come and do something. I speak a little bit of German. I spent 2 years in Austria. So I said, okay, let's go. That was another adventure because I was traveling with Amanda. So we're both visually impaired. And it was really interesting traveling together. Bits she could see, bits I could see. She couldn't see stuff, I could see stuff. So we kind of managed and encouraged ourselves, and we asked for support, for help from the help at the airport and all that. It was an amazing thing to do. And again, it helped me to think, oh, the world is my oyster. So we went to Germany, and it was a sports university, and it was a foundation that supported disability horse riding, disability football, and tennis. And so the tennis coach, he was a young guy, Nicholas, who was the sports coach for all the students who were studying at the university and chose tennis as one of their sports. We were there on court from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was full on. We were so passionate, Hassan, that we didn't ask for any money. We just said, just pay for our flight, our accommodation, our food. So a bit like the RNIB, they have like centers in different bits of Germany. So some people came from those organizations, some people were individuals, some people were doing other sports. Amanda took care of the visually impaired. I took care of the totally blind. I would muddle my kind of explanations in German, and then I'd say them in English, and then they'd translate it properly in proper German. But it was good fun, you know. And out of that, they now have an international team. It's been so fun, you know, showing people something new, something they could do, something in a sense, you know, that maybe they never thought they could do. So then the other country we went to was Ireland. Ireland wanted to develop their disability tennis, and they are supported by the Tennis Foundation, the LTA. They were put in contact with us, and we went out there for their Mayfest, their blind sports event, and we gave workshops there. So they had the tennis, they had football. It was like a multi-sport event. I said hello to the president. Then they did like a weekend workshop for tennis coaches and people who were just interested in learning about blind tennis. So we did that as well. We did sort of drills. We bought the balls. We did a match, a kind of promotional match, like a demonstration, an exhibition match. And now they have an international team. So that's been really amazing, be the kind of instigator to have planted the seed, so to speak, and to see it grow so fast and so fantastically. Going back to the Japanese vision of making this sport Paralympic, they needed then countries to take part. We needed the journey to start international tournaments. And so there was a congress organized in Mexico. So again, I went traveling to Mexico. That was also awesome. So we did a presentation on what was happening in the UK. And out of then IPTA, the International Blind Tennis Association, was created. We had quite a few countries. There's Japan, South Korea, there's Australia, South Africa, now there's India, there's Pakistan, there's France, Italy, Spain, Germany, GB, Ireland, Poland. I know there are people playing it in USA and Canada, and it's growing. And in some countries, you see it's the governing body of tennis, like the the LTA. Sometimes it's the blind association, like the INIB, who would sort of lead it, and sometimes it's private tennis businesses that develop disability sport and so have sort of latched on to the blind tennis. So in every country is quite different. It's organized in different ways. It's very interesting to see the take on disability that different countries have, how they perceive, I suppose, in a sense, the involvement of disabled people, of being decision makers and shapers and shakers, rather than, I suppose, the sighted sports people to sort of tell the blind people what to do. It's a very interesting situation to be in, to kind of see how different countries perceive disability. And you have to be patient. You have to learn that, I suppose, in a sense, we're quite advanced in England. I mean, we do moan and we do kind of feel sometimes a bit disillusioned and not supported, and we feel like we're discriminated against. But compared to other countries, we are very advanced.
Very.
I think to actually travel the world and talk to other disabled people and blind people, and to share, how they cope, how they live, and then to talk to sighted coaches and to see what their relationship with their players are. Very interesting. So after the first Congress, there was the first competition in Spain. So I was representing France because I'm not GB, but also because I wanted France to be part of it. So it just adds an extra country as well, because the more country we have, you have to keep in mind the Paralympic dream. So the more countries we have playing from the start, the better it is. I came second. And then there was a competition in Ireland. So I came third. And then there's another competition in Spain again last year. And I was a bit further down as you get older. As the game grows, there are better
Yeah.
players that join, and people train, and it's amazing. It's really good fun. So we had a great time, and unfortunately this year it was going to be in Italy. So hopefully, in a sense, you kind of hope that everybody who's been involved hasn't been too affected by the situation, because again, you're not sure how the situation is going to affect charities and sporting and funding and people's businesses and people's kind of commitment to the sport. Let's hope that we'll be back on track quite soon.
Back on the tennis court. If I'm listening to this and I want to give tennis a go, what advice would you give me, and how could I give this game a go?
So I think there's different ways you can do it. So there are obviously tennis sessions sort of scattered around the UK. One of the places you could go to is British Blind Sport and ask them, so they can put you in touch with tennis that's happening near you. You could also ask the LTA, the Lawn Tennis Association, because they run all our tournaments. We were going to have 11 tournaments this year all across the country, but they've been cancelled. And also Metro Blind Sport. Metro Blind Sport has a lot of contact and will definitely know maybe a little bit more about the grassroots, and they'll be able to ask around and dig a bit for you. But nowadays, with social media, if you can just Google blind tennis and put your county, whether it's York or Manchester, put your town and see what comes out. And there's VI Tennis UK Facebook page, so you can put a question to the community as well. So there's various ways of getting in contact. But the thing I want to also say is that if there is no tennis around you and you are desperate and you're passionate and you want to start tennis, well, do what so many of us have done. Just start a session yourself, and just start your own sessions. Get together with a few friends, book a court, get a coach, look on, try and get a few balls, and just start. Just start.
Just start. Yeah. You can. I don't know. You could start a new nation on your own. You've started French tennis.
I
And
have
and
just by myself.
Naki, and is it Naki? Naki represents Pakistan.
He
So all these
does,
British
yes.
trained players are now playing for other countries. But that's
Yes,
fantastic.
and now Rob Kershaw's gone back to South Africa, so he represents South Africa. I would say don't wait for somebody else to start a session. Do it yourself. It's much easier than you think. It doesn't have to be super formal. As long as you're on court playing and having fun, that's the main thing.
Well, if you're not inspired by this, then I don't know what you will. Because one of the things that no, in all honesty, having done these interviews, I think you kind of tend to forget when you wear your shirt or you pick up a racket how much hard work the volunteer leads and Metro Blind Sport have put into it. Odette, how
I
much
do.
hard work you have to
Yeah.
put into just organising a Christmas lunch or meeting and greeting people, because that's one of the things that people rely on, don't they? So there's a lot of work that you guys are putting in. So I really want to thank you for that.
I think that the other thing that we've really tried to do is to make it accessible as much as possible. For the B1 players, we offer to collect them from the station. We try and get sort of all the information in accessible format. And I think a lot of sport bodies will just run the session, and that's why it doesn't work. You kind of need to have all the stuff around it that make it possible for the person to get there and feel that they're going to be, they're not going to be just dumped and left to fend for themselves. So I think that's what Metro has really done very, very well.
Okay, well, last question, I promise, Odette. I've worked with you at Pocklington. You've been my boss a few times. Where do you get your motivation from?
I think I get my energy because also I've seen how people have reacted to the sport. I've had people in tears saying, I never thought I could play tennis. I thought that was not for me as a visually impaired person. That was beyond me. And I thought I could never play tennis. And, I've had people really sort of been very emotional about it. So I think all that it has kind of driven me and given me the energy and the motivation to keep going.
You're amazing trailblazers. Odette, thank you so much for your time. I hope you stay well. And Jean, send in my regards and Metro's regards. And no doubt we'll see you on a court soon.
Absolutely. And Hassan, I'm still waiting for you to come and try the tennis. And then you can talk to your audience from true experience, not second hand.
You're not supposed to show me up. Right, that's a promise. There we go. It's a promise. It's a promise. We'll end it like this.
Your New Year's resolution. I want to see you on this tennis court. Give it a go.
I have actually tried it, and I'll come back to it. That's a promise. There you go. I've made that promise. Thank you so much.